touchdown passes last year. This one's knocked up. Bowers tips it to himself, and he'll score.
Snaps it anyway. Greer lobs it in the air. Oh, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the left. This year. Here's a blitz, and Klubnik didn't see it coming. He got blasted by Kalen DeLoach, who has the ball and is heading toward the end zone.
What is going on, everyone? It is College Football Talk. We are on episode 56, and we welcome you along here on our Tuesday show. A lot has happened since the last time we met. We had conference championships happen. The playoff field is set, and a lot of controversy around that, which we'll be getting into today. So, we're not going to be diving too much into the conference championship games. It is what it is. Texas really stole the show against Oklahoma State. Bama beat Georgia, and unfortunately for some, and Florida State won and got shafted. So we're actually going to segue right into that because that's the big thing that's happening, being talked about all over. Actually, right before that, subscribe, guys. 81 subscribers right now. Let's get to 100 for sometime before the end of the year. Keep rolling there.
We're enjoying it. We're enjoying this.
Oh, yeah. Like the videos, watch them, subscribe on YouTube, listen on Spotify. Shout out Fortnite in the background of Dylan's thing on YouTube.
Hey, man, Peter Griffin's in the game now, dude. I got to get that skin. I've been working. I'm grinding.
There you go. All right. So we're going to actually hop right into this here as I put it there. So as you can see on the field, if you're watching on YouTube, the playoff field is set. It is Michigan 1, Washington 2, Texas 3, and Alabama gets in at the 4 spot. And this means FSU did not get in, even though they did go 13-0. You won your title, did everything right, but the committee says, not going to let you in still. Just couldn't get in. The biggest factor, I guess, for them was the quarterback situation just overhauled everything else that they had done throughout the year. And they put Bama in after a good win. I mean, probably the best win in all of college football this year, beating Georgia.
Yeah,
but they hop over FSU, even though they have the one loss, which was to Texas. And obviously, Dylan's our FSU correspondent here. Not happy. He's not happy.
No, I don't think you can be happy in this kind of situation.
No.
There's nothing like it almost feels like to me and most other, Florida State fans, players, everybody around, this season just didn't matter for these guys. You know what I mean? It's almost like the games they played didn't matter. What mattered at the end of the day was how does their resume look against? How did they look on paper against Alabama? And on paper, Alabama played a harder schedule. Alabama had a better strength of schedule. They played the number 1 team. They get in. It's very heartbreaking because we're gonna see, this team that, quite frankly, if we just watch the Louisville game alone, probably had one of the best defensive lines in the country and just defenses in general. I mean, they turned that top 20 Louisville offense into, well, quite frankly, they couldn't do anything on offense. Louisville.
No. I mean, they had a couple nice runs, but other than that, it was a defensive shutdown. The biggest play of the game was a pick in the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, just a complete shutdown on defensively.
So, I mean, I feel horrible for Mike Norvell, all the coaching staff, all the players, because I think the worst part is pretty much what the committee more or less told Jordan Travis is that it's your fault your team missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
That you getting injured is the reason your team does not get a chance to compete for a national championship. And I think it also sets a horrible precedent for the future that in week 12, 13, if a team really doesn't want to see another team go to the playoff, just break their quarterback's leg. They're not going.
Or when now, with the expanded playoff now, teams are able now to have leeway. I mean, it's going to be like the NFL where, you can afford to lose more than 1 or 2 games. But, now it becomes, do you start bringing in that load management or
Yeah.
senior day. Let's say senior day. We'll take the Jordan Travis example because they
Yep.
play North Alabama. You're not playing anybody important week before
Yeah.
Florida. Senior day, let him come out, do all that, and then just don't have him play.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like,
is that what you lead us to end? Because now it's like, well, if you're saying these games don't really matter, the games do matter. But say now it's like, well, if you're saying that we've done everything, we'll just start sitting guys. We just won't schedule people because obviously we didn't do it. So we're just not gonna, we're not gonna risk any injury now because if you're
I mean, to me,
tag
it's just
along your point right there.
it's like with the 12-team expanded playoff now,
Mhm.
like a team like Michigan, right? When you're playing Iowa, why even play a starter in that game at all?
Exactly.
You're not gonna fall out of the top 12. Even
No.
if you get your ass kicked in the game, you're not falling out of the top 12. Worst case scenario, you fall to like 8.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's a I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like a 12-team playoff was just dumb to begin with. I think there should have been 8 teams and there should have been automatic qualifiers.
I always thought it should be the top 6. Yeah, I always thought why don't expand it to 12. I only did 6 because that way you have all of your 6 games.
It's an uneven number for me though. Well, it's an even number, but like when you're making a bracket,
Yeah,
it's just a little funky.
Well, you give
looking.
the top 2 teams the bye, so
Yeah.
you have the semis, and then you go into that. A quote here from Mike Norvell: "I'm disgusted and infuriated with the committee's decision today to have that was earned on the field taken away because a small group of people decided they knew better than the results of the games. What is the point of playing games? Do you tell players it is okay to quit if someone goes down? Do you not play a senior on senior day for fear of injury? Where is the motivation for scheduling challenging non-conference games? We're not only a undefeated Power 5 conference champ, but we also play two Power 5 non-conference games away from home and won both of them. Understand that we are supposed to think that understand how we are supposed to think this is acceptable way to evaluate the team."
Yeah.
The 2 games he's talking about, played LSU neutral site, but it was in Orlando away from home. And then just because how the year it was that time of the year, they split off years. They were at Florida. I mean, that's just kind of like how we were talking about right there with, it's injuries. Do you just sit people out now? I do think that I was talking to you about this before this, but so I think that they got the best teams in. Do I think it's the right decision? From a deserving standpoint, no, because Florida State deserved to be in from what they did all year. From how the committee approached it, they took the best 4 teams to this point and put them in. Do I agree with it? No. I think Florida State should have got in just based off of that, but I do think that the best 4 teams are in, though. That's personally what I think.
I disagree with that statement because of the Washington situation. Because I know it, you know it, Washington would be the underdog against Michigan, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State,
Georgia,
and Georgia. Yeah, they're underdogs to all those teams.
They're a 4.5 point favorite, right? Underdog right now, I believe, unless it dropped to 4. Right now to Texas.
What do you think the line would be between Washington and Georgia? Based on the fact that Oregon was a 9.5 point favorite against Washington.
Probably looking at about like 12.5.
Exactly.
I would say somewhere around there.
And for that, it boggles the mind for me.
I know the line for Florida State, Michigan would have been a 12-point favorite. Michigan.
Yeah.
Right now, the line for Bama, Michigan, last I checked, was Michigan 1.5.
Yeah.
And it might have it'll probably be close to a pick 'em by the time game time is. But yeah, I mean, I just think that they looked at the 2 teams. Yeah. And they said, well, one team, they looked ahead. Obviously, there's an article out now from Heather Dinich about it.
Yeah.
They watched the game on the ACC title game, and they used that as like a look ahead spot in a sense where you're like, oh,
they projected what they think Florida State would do against a Michigan And to me, a couple reasons why that's terrible, but I'll let you go.
But I think that they just kind of deleted everything up to like the North Alabama game. So they pretty much got rid of all that and put the three games they played.
Yeah.
Did they look acceptable? No, but they won.
Mm-hmm.
They did not look. It was ugly on offense, really rock solid on defense and special teams. But do I think they would beat Alabama right now? No. Do they think they beat Michigan? No. Do they deserve to be in? Yes, because they went undefeated and were a Power 5 champ. This would be a different story if it was like, you take the UCF or Cincinnati approach.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, even though Cincinnati beat, I think, Indiana and Notre Dame that a couple years ago. But like you run the gauntlet, and they just didn't get in. I want to ask you, because I asked you earlier, but like, do you blame? A couple years ago when the commissioners were all voting about this, and all the Power 5 teams except for the Alliance, the Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12 team and commissioners voted against expansion, which would have happened this year. It slowed down the process, which kicked into next year. If they were all clear with it, they were upset after what had happened to the SEC going after OU and Texas. So they said, whoa, we're going to slow it down.
Yeah.
But really what happened was the Big Ten kind of went little fool's gold, tricked the ACC and Pac-12 while they were kind of just asking to be slowed down. They were just getting time to go get other poach teams. And so now then you got caught, you blocked it, and pushed it to next year. So in a way, the ACC has every right as part of this problem because we could have a spot right now where Liberty and Florida State are playing each other to see who wants to play Bama. And so now it's like, well, you kind of did this to your own self. But it's just one of those things you won't ever probably see again because it won't happen because of the extended playoff.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, though, is there brand bias with this, with Bama?
I think to a degree, yeah. I think we all know to a degree it is. If it was Bama, if it wasn't Bama and it was like a different SEC school, even like not Georgia specifically, but like Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
If it was down between Florida State and Missouri, I think Florida State gets in over Missouri. Even if Missouri had the exact same resume as Alabama, I think Florida State gets in. I think to a degree, having Alabama, I think a lot of people have said this before, but I believe there's people in the committee who feel like it gives legitimacy, that they were scared of if you take Alabama out, it takes away legitimacy of the playoff, which I think is, baloney. But, that's here nor there. But it's just infuriating to me.
I want to ask you this.
Yep.
Is Florida State, are they one of the 4 best teams? Right now.
One of the 4 best teams right now, probably not.
Okay. And I think that's what the committee looked at the end of the day and was like, and I don't want to say the committee went the rough route because they were at like the crossroad where we take the easy path here and just kind of, or do we take the rough route and just really screw up? And I don't want to say feel bad for the committee because either way, as soon as Georgia lost, it became the domino effect because now you had someone was going to get pissed off here. It was either going to be Alabama or it was going to be Florida State. And there was a funny thing. They just kind of spun the wheel and said, all right, it landed on you guys. You're going to get in.
Yeah.
Did you see the Michigan video though? How
I saw the Michigan video.
They weren't pleased about it. I don't think so. I don't. It's do you wish there was 12 teams right now, I guess then? Because you wish they would
obviously it's like be in the playoff, but
you gotta have a home playoff game at Doak right now.
I know.
Getting ready to play Liberty.
Against a Liberty team we'd probably murder.
Hey, listen, Jamie Chadwell and the Flames.
To a degree, they played the worst schedule in the sport though.
And they got in over SMU and SMU.
Yeah, which was bullcrap. Let's be honest with ourselves.
So there's the criteria there too. So they brought Boo Corrigan back on after they announced the playoff. They're the New Year's Six games.
Yeah.
Shout out College Football Talk playoff or New Year's Six bowl game, Orange Bowl, Georgia, FSU. Anyway, they took it. They asked him. They said, how did you decide Liberty over SMU? Because SMU comes in an AAC winner, go into Tulane. What a job by Rhett Lashley and them go in there. Shout out Willie Fritz too. Great job at Tulane. He takes the Houston job, so good job there. Anyway, so SMU comes in 11-2, conference championship winner. Their two losses are both at Oklahoma and TCU.
Yeah.
Liberty 13-0, conference championship winner. All to them. Great job. Strength of schedule 133rd in the country. Like the worst strength of schedule. And again, you can't control that on your end, but it's just like how the chips fall.
I mean, to a degree, you
To a
can
degree,
control
you
it
can.
because you choose your
But we're
non-conference.
talking about like the non-conference is what it is, but like the conference, like you can't.
You can't blame the conference. Yeah.
So you look at that and you're like, they asked him, they said, what made you make that decision? He said pretty much along the lines of, well, they did what they need. They just won. They won. They kept winning.
Yeah.
But then you look at, all right, okay. So because on the rankings, it's 23rd is Liberty, 24th SMU. So like literally like that close.
Splitting hairs.
Yeah. And now you take that. So you're like, okay, might as well, that would be right for FSU and Alabama, right? And you're like, let's not. Yeah, well, they won, but we're not putting it in because now we ignore. They both were conference champion. Okay. Strength of schedule, it's Bama's favored. Let's look at the win-loss record. Well, FSU has no losses. They should be in, right? And you're like, no, can't do that.
I just, it's the worst feeling ever because like
it stinks too for Florida State because it felt like this was like that last ride documentary where it's like, because this was a team, a lot of transfers, a lot of upperclassmen, and now you kind of just got it stolen from you in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this team who were even a part of those old,
those bad years,
those Willie Taggart years.
Jordan Travis literally probably was part of this reconstruction, like building this program back up.
Jordan Travis was a part of the best and worst Florida State teams of the past decade.
This was Florida State before last year had won 5 games, and then the year before was like 3.
Yeah.
So you go from 3, 5, 10 to 13, and you're through all the bad stuff. You get to the top, and then it's just what do you like? We did everything you wanted us to do. It's unfortunate. You hate it for you hate it more for the coaches and the players. So, I don't really care. Like all these talking heads and non-fans, like just shut up. I don't care. But like
that's it. Yeah, I mean,
it's the players and the coaches staff. Like I don't care what the AD says. I don't care what these politicians are saying. I don't care what the ACC is saying. It's the coaches and players you feel the worst for because it's like they were out there grinding hours and hours upon each day, and then it's like, yank, we're gonna
for nothing.
It's the commercial where it's like, oh, we got to be quicker than that with the fishing rod. Like that's what it felt like right there. You just had it yanked away. I do think though that we had some really good playoff games. I think they got the
we'll
right.
See. We'll see. I hate to say this, but I do hope Alabama gets blown out, personally.
It'll be interesting. That game is going to be interesting. We'll have a playoff preview show closer to the day. But, like, we can look ahead here. But, like, I do think, like, looking at this, you're going to have Michigan's kind of built like Georgia was, where in the sense that they're not going to beat themselves. They're going to take advantage of your mistakes.
Yeah.
Can they control the line of scrimmage? Because Georgia was not able to, and Bama was Michigan hasn't seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, and if Jalen Milroe can play like he did against Georgia, and it really wasn't that good, but it was what he was able to do to keep plays alive. He didn't turn the ball over, and he made the right decisions.
Yeah,
they were going to give Michigan it's going to be a big game for JJ McCarthy because we haven't seen him show up at all. Washington, Texas. A rematch from last year's Alamo game where Washington won Alamo Bowl. This one's it feels like it's kind of like Washington is kind of getting the 8 ball here because 2 seed, higher ranked, but they got to go to New Orleans, which is Texas. It's gonna be like a Texas home game here.
Is that what it is? Is it in New Orleans?
Yeah. So Michigan's heading to Pasadena, and then Washington has to go down to New Orleans as the higher seed, and they're gonna play for a Texas neighbor game right there.
Yeah.
And Texas wins that, they get pretty much a home game with Houston. So I think that game's going to be fascinating. Yeah. That Michigan one, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. But
I think to Alabama, to to their point, they got kind of screwed having to go all the way to Pasadena.
Yeah. Well, that's what
That
happens
is
to be the 4 seed.
not fun. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You kind of just that's the kind of how the luck of the draw goes right there. Let's take a look though. Do you want to take a look here? This is the 12-team bracket if we had it this year. So you have your Florida State Liberty, they play Bama. These are all home games as well. So you have Oregon, Missouri, Penn State, Ohio State. You have 2 rematches of Penn State, Ohio State, both in the same locations too.
Yep.
Georgia play Ole Miss again at home. Georgia beat them by 35. So, still be a great atmosphere. I do think it's kind of unfair though. It kind of sucks though. Those teams that get the buys, they have to go to just to play a neutral site game. They don't get the home. They should probably get a bowl game or a home game, but that's none.
That's why I would think it would be home game, neutral site.
Yeah. But then I
But
guess
it's
then
not.
because then you have you have the big 6 bowl games and then because 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. So just how that'll be interesting though going into next year because I'm going to take a look at like the MLB playoffs now, where teams that have buys have historically since they brought it in last couple of years, like haven't had much success. So interesting, like momentum is we're taking MLB here, but like the Phillies who play bye weeks the last 2 years, who have played in the wild card, like they just get hot and then they just keep rolling. And now you take a team like Florida State, just steamrolls Liberty, just starts gaining momentum, goes into Bama or plays Bama on a neutral site, just starts rolling. And, that's going to be a big thing going into next year because do teams that don't play the week before, do they get cold? Because that would be an extra week off as far as like an whole month off. So that will be interesting. Any final thoughts here on the playoff chaos that went down?
I mean, it's just
just something now you just hate it for the players and the coaching staff because it's something that they did everything they were supposed to do. Do you think now that do they get moving now on trying to get out of the ACC? Because now you're saying, because the ACC apparently now is, you're not good enough for us. You can't provide what we need. So we got to get out of here.
It's going to light a fire underneath like the entire fan base in the athletic department to get out as quick as possible.
For sure.
Yeah. Like here's an article by a USC fan page pretty much saying that this is going to destroy the ACC. Like there's a legitimate chance that Cal and Stanford, while they still have time, back out.
Join the Mountain West. Because now you're saying, like, the ACC, you've pretty much told us that your ACC, you're just not good enough. You don't stack up among the rest. And now you have these other Big Ten, SEC gaining these big-time schools from the Pac-12 and the Big 12. You're saying, you guys aren't good enough. And now even the Big 12 is getting some decent schools coming in. You're like, does the ACC just fall to the bottom of the totem pole here as far as like relevancy? Because now you're like, you just told Florida State fans and their players and the team, like, Wake Forest, you're not good enough. Miami, no, you're not. You don't belong among the rest. Does this hurt out of state rivalries? Do you even bother scheduling Florida going forward?
Yeah,
I think you do, but like, do you?
Well, they don't really have a choice.
True,
but it's a state legislature.
But it's
I don't know
like,
if you knew that, but it really is.
Does it
They legally cannot play?
That's funny. Does it like hurt those kind of like just games? It's like, well, it doesn't really matter because we win. It doesn't matter. We look at a team that regardless, it's a crazy environment. I was at the game, like that place was rocking. Florida State did not look. It wasn't pretty by no stretch of the means. They got the win. So I mean, you want to. That's why I just had this feeling a couple weeks ago. This will be my final thought. I just had this feeling a couple weeks ago where as soon as Travis went down, those 2 games are going to be Florida and Louisville. I'm like, they're going to have to win. These style points are going to have to mean something because I'm like, this beauty pageant thing, it's so subjective in this committee room. They won't say that, but it is. And the fact that they didn't have the style points, the pretty fashion show points that you're looking for, I guess, ended up biting them in the butt because that's really what ended up happening. because I don't know, the committee saw them. They're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you look like Iowa right now, and we're going to ignore the fact that you beat LSU, you crushed them, you took out Clemson at Clemson, you did all of the stuff you needed to do, but you just didn't do. We didn't give it the pretty points because we saw what Ohio State did a couple years ago, and they lit up Wisconsin like a Christmas tree. But you guys didn't do that, so we're not going to let you in. That's what I felt like going into that week. Those last couple weeks, I'm like, I feel like I've seen this a little bit before, just how subjective it is.
Yeah.
Did you have that in the back of your mind a little bit?
Honestly, no. I legitimately believe if they win these games, how could you leave out an undefeated Florida State team?
Yeah.
I also didn't have Alabama winning. That wasn't even in my equation.
No.
I legitimately thought you guys would roll them.
And I thought so too, but we didn't. We got concerned.
But here we are.
Here we are.
I also thought Oklahoma State would put up a fight. Like, what was that? Of course, they kill a Longhorn, put it on their campus, and then their team gets destroyed by the Longhorns.
Did you see Quinn Ewers' Instagram post? He went like for Bevo's cousin.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I should have known Undertaker was there. Taker's a Texas Longhorn. So Oklahoma State had no shot. So we're gonna move on though. Plenty still to talk about with this and the whole playoff going forward. We still got games to play. Playoff field is set, so you gotta move past this. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Can't really control, but you can't control this anymore. And we're gonna move on though to hot seat questions because I got some questions here, and we're gonna talk about it. All right. The Heisman finalists just came out. It is Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison Jr., which is like, and then
I don't think he deserved to go.
And Michael Penix.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Who do we like? Who got snubbed? What do we think here?
I mean, I don't know if any guy particularly got snubbed. I just don't think Michael Harrison Jr. He's going to come in fourth place. Or Marvin, sorry. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to come in fourth place. He didn't need to be there. He didn't even have the most impressive season for a wide receiver.
No, Malik Neighbors and Romeo Duse
Malik Neighbors had a better year. I mean, there's a lot of guys who I think should have been. I mean, whatever guy goes there in fourth place, it's not like it really matters.
Let's say, if Brock Bowers doesn't get hurt and miss a couple games, do you think he's in there instead of Harrison?
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of guys you could say. I mean, if Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, I think
if Carson Beck played one hell of a game on Saturday, like I thought, instead they took the ball out of his hands.
I mean, there's a good chance he goes.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the dumbest thing I've heard is Bama fans saying Jalen Milroe should have gone.
Get the heck out of here with that. When you get benched by USF, that's all I need to know right there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I feel like he was just kind of like he's the sitting duck, just kind of like the fill-in, like needed four guys. You're just going to be the last guy. I think that
you see this happen every year to a degree.
Yeah. I think Daniels is the front runner for me.
Me too.
Vegas has that. Vegas had going into the Pac-12 title game. I think Bo Nix was minus 200, and then after the game he was like plus 2,500. And Jaden Daniels went from like plus like 400 or something to like minus 1,000. So I think he's gonna win it, which I'm perfectly fine with. You're putting record aside, and you're saying who is the best player in college football. It's Jaden Daniels. I think Bo Nix will probably finish second. Penix will go third, and then it'll be Harrison in that order. I'd be interested to see the total top 10 though.
Yeah, I mean,
like who was fifth? I would think it'd be Beck, right? Or Beck or Milroe in that order, 5, 6.
I think so. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Who do you think? Anybody snubbed in your opinion?
No, I don't think anybody got. Well, it's one of those things where nobody's. It's a three-way race right now to me. I mean, we'll see who wins. I think Jaden Daniels should win, but because his team lost 3 games, I think there is a legitimate shot that he does not win the Heisman, which is a horrible thing to say.
Yeah,
it's a horrible thing to say because he had an incredible season, but just because of the way this award has gone, I think there is a shot that a guy who should win doesn't win.
I think the last time a guy won it when the record really didn't helped them was Lamar Jackson. I want to
Yeah.
think when they really did.
But-
They
but-
had 4 losses.
But they had some really good wins in there. I mean, they had beaten. That was their first year or second year in the ACC, and they had beaten
I know
number
they
3 Florida State 59-20.
Yeah, that was an annihilation game.
Yeah, there were some really crazy games in there. The problem with Daniels, I think, is just that
He did what he was supposed to do.
he
His
did what he was
defense
supposed to. His defense did not do that. So all of the games look super close on paper. Even though when you watch the games, they're not that close.
No. I mean, his defense let Arkansas only put up 31. They let FSU put up 45. Ole Miss put 55. Bama put up 42, I think. Just the defense didn't hold up in their end, but his stats were remarkable, and that's why I do think he will win it. Who was the biggest letdown this weekend?
The biggest letdown to me was Oklahoma State.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't even look like they showed up to the game.
I thought, and I think I tweeted this. I said, I think Texas might put 100 up by the end of half.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you say that, and I was just sitting there like,
because at that point it was like 21-0, or 20. They put 21 points in like a snap of your finger.
Yeah,
this is not good. I mean,
because it was like Friday afternoon. There was the whole frat house in Stillwater.
So
had a dead Longhorn on their yard.
So apparently, though, that was a long-standing rivalry between two rival frats there, and that Longhorn was dead before they got it.
Yeah,
but still, they took a dead Longhorn, put graffiti on it, and then threw it on a neighboring frat house, which is like the farmhouse,
and then gutted it so that it would stink too.
Yeah. So, and then I think I thought, I'm like, why'd they kill an animal just to put it on your own school's property? That doesn't really make sense. But yeah, I could see that. Oklahoma State just had no fight, but we kind of figured if the stats told you that Texas was going to light them up. And Quinn Ewers' first half, I was down 23-31, 354, 4 touchdowns. He threw the 1 pick, but it didn't matter. Texas' first half at 422 yards, 18 first downs, and they had a 21-point lead going into half. So, I mean, that was all I needed to see right there. Yeah. Biggest letdown for me was Georgia. I just knew I was watching this game at a buddy of mine's house, who's another Georgia fan, and I was just thinking, I'm like, they come out first drive, just down the field, just easy, 83-yard score or 83-yard drive, score 7-0, force Bama into a 3-and-out early. It's just like, all right, here we go. And then Marius Mims kind of got banged up, he got out, but then they just went so conservative. They coached scared. Smart, Bobo, the play calls were atrocious. They ran the same stupid toss sweep to the short side of the field multiple times. They didn't do anything. They took the ball out of Beck's hands too many times. It's just what I mean. I just don't understand. And every time they cut the lead to 3. And the defense needed to make a stop. The defense could not. They got out physical. I mean, just at the line. I mean, you don't see that with Kirby Smart teams. They got outclassed on the line of scrimmage. Which that was what I mean, and they held Bama, I think, just over 100 yards rushing, but it just felt like they were, even when they would get pressure, it just, Milrow would find a way to get out, and it was just, and if there was some really bad officiating a couple times, there was a 4th down catch that should have not counted. It should have been reviewed because it led to a touchdown. There was some ticky-tack penalties called on Georgia that really were up in the air. And then, but Georgia all year, I've said this. The only thing that can beat Georgia is themselves, and they did that.
Yeah.
Fumble inside their own 30, which led to a field goal. When you had momentum back, when they had cut it to 3, you're feeling good. Or I forget what. No, it was 7, and they had cut it, and then they fumbled, and it's just like, oh. And then they false start at first half. They pushed a 45-yarder to a 50-yarder, and Woodring hits the post, and then off the crossbar, and it didn't go in.
Yeah.
That's a difference right there. If that's up 4 or 5 yards, he makes that. And so they hurt themselves. They cost them a playoff spot because they had to win this. I knew this going forward. That's why, usually I'm really ticked off after a loss. And I've really done some stupid stuff after a loss but I knew this going in. I was like, this is a playoff game. They have to win this because I'm like, there's too much chalk. There was never upset weekend, so there's too much chalk. They had to win to get in, and they lost. They just were the better team that lost because of them really themselves. So
Yep.
no,
and it sucks. I mean, it's just like
because you can't. And Kirby Smart said this after the game. He was like, give your take, like give your spiel to be like to the committee. He's like, he said like Bill Hancock said the 4 best teams.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't tell me that team that just went out there is not one of the 4 best teams. If we're freaking looking at Vegas and power ratings, hell yeah, they are. But you can't do that. So it just stinks because no team's ever dropped out of the top 4 after being 1 going into the final weekend. But, that's just what happens. I knew this. It was a playoff game before the playoffs, and they came up short, and sometimes that happens. And we'll see how they finish the year against Florida State. I'd be interested how the culture game, that's going to be a big culture game for both teams because you really got to know where each headspace is at for both teams because, mentally, deep down, in just this day and age where, like, if you don't make the playoffs, kind of it's like, who gives a shit? Sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
but I get what you're saying, yeah.
And I don't like that because, like, I like bowl games because you look at these other teams, these other schools, it's like, these are big time things for these schools, like recruiting wise, just momentum going into the next year. Like they want to go out there one final time, and it's like some of these bigger schools, it's like who cares? But it's like you're playing in a really good bowl game, so like why not go out there one more time? Final game of the year, build momentum going into the spring, going into next year, because some of these guys, the last time they're gonna ever be on a football field. A lot of these guys, so. That's why I just think that's like I see too much negativity on social media about this. Like, who cares? Just don't even show up. Like, why not? You know what I mean? So that's going to be a big game because, like, who wants to be there more? That's really what it's going to come down to. Because I know a couple years ago, Texas played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and Georgia got snubbed of a playoff spot, and they just were like, screw this, dude. They went out there and played like crap and lost by 7, but the score was much bigger than that. The famous "we're back" thing.
It was 5 years too early.
Yeah.
Because I think they're back now. They're back.
Oh. Hey, shout out Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell, former Georgia Bulldog legend, 2-time champ there, heading to his 3rd straight playoff.
Congrats to him.
Shout out to him. All right. Yeah. Next question here, Dylan. Which bowl game are you looking forward to that's non-playoff? Any or 1, 2, or 3 bowl?
I mean, I'm looking forward to the Orange Bowl just because, get to see Florida State one last time this year with that team. It's not going to be the same team. They're going to be playing Georgia. It's always good to see.
That is
a first time these two teams have played in a long time. I can't even name the last time.
It's the last time both teams have played in the Orange Bowl since playing Michigan each time.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, both teams played Michigan. Both teams beat Michigan.
There we go. I was at the Florida State game, so I know.
I think we should go. It's like 13.5, right?
14 right now.
14 right now? Went up? Okay.
Well, it opened at 14, I think.
I saw it drop down to 13.5 on some website.
People put money on. I think that's when people put money on Florida State or Georgia. It just it'll tick up. I'm looking forward to the Alamo Bowl, Oklahoma versus Arizona. I think it's gonna be a good game.
There's a couple other good ones in there. The Sun Bowl between Notre Dame and Oregon State.
The Peach Bowl, Penn State, Ole Miss, very intriguing one. Only because now you get Ole Miss's offense, which is good. Penn State's defense is really good, but then you Ole Miss's defense is, and then you have Penn State's offense, which is, So you're really going to see who wants to be there. Pop-Tart Bowl only because of the edible mascot. I mean, come on, which is kind of a shame. We had the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl. Cheez-It Bowl, and we haven't had this is the first time we're getting an edible mascot. What flavor Pop-Tart? That's gonna be determined.
I mean it. Speaking back on bowls, just reading through some of this information from I don't know if you've read this article from The Athletic yet, but pretty much the ACC did not plan a scenario where Florida State did not get into the playoff here. So they did not have any of the bowl games set up at all. So now Syracuse is playing in the Boca Raton Bowl
Yeah, against USF. Shout
Mhm.
out the Mighty Bulls.
You got Georgia Tech is only playing UCF because UCF played Duke last year, and the ACC forgot that until
Yeah.
about an hour before things were supposed to be announced.
That's what I saw that originally got announced, and I'm like, yeah, they just played each other last year.
Yeah. Duke is going to the Birmingham Bowl. Louisville was pretty much the entire ACC directive had 100% believed win or lose, Louisville will be our team going to the Orange Bowl, and when they
That's
weren't,
yeah.
they kind of freaked out for a second because they did not have another bowl game lined up for Louisville to play in.
Well, then if they thought Louisville, well, then they should have just had never mind.
Yeah,
totally where I'm
because
going.
pretty much the Gator Bowl, Holiday Bowl, and Pop Tart Bowl, right, would be the three premium tier bowls that the ACC can go to. That isn't New Year's Six, right?
Mm-hmm.
The predicted ones that the ACC thought it would be NC State, Clemson, and North Carolina.
Yeah.
But because of what happened at Louisville, they kind of freaked out, and now who's playing in the bad bowl? Somebody's playing in not a good bowl. I think it's like North Carolina.
No,
I
they're
think
playing in
North
the
Car-
Duke's Mayo Bowl.
yeah, so they've fallen out of the like top bowls.
They're playing West Virginia.
Yeah,
The
but
Mounties go for 9 wins.
but instead of getting to go to the Holiday Bowl, Gator Bowl, or Pop Tart Bowl, they've fallen down to the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
I wonder if Drake May is going to play in that game because if he doesn't, look out for the Mounties.
Yeah.
But also, North Carolina did that to themselves because North Carolina really sputtered at the end of the year,
Yeah.
which was unfortunate because how good of a start they had.
Well, I'm not saying North Carolina did anything at all. I'm just saying the
Yeah,
ACC.
they just didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the committee did. They just didn't
Yep.
have a plan. Just kind of look ahead, See, it's all one big bad problem
Mhm.
in this. All right, our final hot seat question here is early Natty prediction. Who we think gets it done?
I think it's gonna be Texas versus Michigan.
Who do you think wins though?
Texas.
Same. Hook 'em
Horns
horns.
up. Horns up.
Guys. Hook 'em horns. SEC
Hook 'em
brethren. Hook 'em
horns.
horns. Hook 'em horns. Only because Quinn Ewers looks like a really like a country pop star, and
He's looking crazy right now. I mean,
he's playing crazy right now too.
I cannot imagine. I mean, he might do incredible things versus that Washington defense.
And he will. He will.
That's
But Washington,
I mean,
it'll be interesting because Washington can get after the quarterback. It's going to be.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is for that game is Washington be able to run the football because because Texas is a top 5 run defense, and Dylan Johnson, who's been really good as of late,
yeah.
and he had that same success. Washington's really good at playing in close games. Texas likes to make games not competitive. So really interesting one there. I agree, Texas. All right, we're gonna move on though. Transfer portal talk because transfer portal, in the midst of everything, opened up yesterday.
Yep.
And over 1,100 kids have already entered, and continues to rise. Just a few notable names I got here are Dylan Gabriel, OU quarterback, Julian Fleming, and Kyle McCord, both heading out from Ohio State.
Yep.
Will Rogers, DJ Uyunglele, Cam Moore, Tyler Van Dyke, Riley Leonard, Dante Moore, Brock Vandergriff, Evan Stewart, and Walter Nolan heading out from A&M. Juice Wells from South Carolina, Bryson Barnes, our pig farmer from Utah, and London Humphrey, the speedy Vanderbilt receiver. Who is the biggest name off that list that you're most intrigued to see where they fall?
I think Cam Ward personally. I really want to see where that guy ends up. I feel bad for Washington State in this situation right now. You know what I mean? You're losing
Oregon State too. I mean, they just lost
both.
Too. They lost their starting quarterback and their backup
and their head coach.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Oregon State has a better chance of getting something figured out than Washington State does. I think Oregon State's just a better job than Washington State.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you think Florida State goes into the portal for a quarterback?
Yes. Yes.
Who are you trying to look at?
Who do I want?
I've heard Uyunglele.
I was gonna say I think Uyunglele ends up being the guy. I would like Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward would be the perfect guy to transition because his play style isn't the exact same as Jordan Travis, but he definitely is more mobile like a Travis.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it ends up being Uyonglele though,
Do you
just because
think
I think
does that lead
Uyonglele
to
had already
like
played in the ACC. He knows the territory. He's a guy who has experience, who will be wanted, but Florida State would easily jump to the top of any list of teams that want him.
especially now they're getting all this NIL money.
Exactly, yeah.
So the
So
pissed off money is what we like to call it these days.
yeah, I mean it's
it's
money. I mean,
money. It's money.
yeah.
I'm looking at Walter Nolan
Mhm.
from A&M, especially for Georgia, because that D line, you're losing a bunch of guys that were seniors, and I need more. I need some pass rushers on those edge rushers. Smile
Yeah.
London is really good. Michael Williams is really good, but there's Chaz Chambliss is a good player, but he's not a difference maker. And I think Georgia, it really showed against Bama because Bama's tackles are really good run blocking, as you
Yeah.
saw. But when there was blitzing or heat from an edge rusher, they got struggled a little bit. And I think that's what you
Mhm.
need these days with these quarterbacks, as passing games all over. You need good rushers, and they need to sound up that D line because they need to really amp up the run defense a lot more better going into next year.
Mhm.
I think they need to get a solid receiver. There's rumors out there London Humphrey from Vanderbilt might go is a crystal ball for them.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, they need a solid guy from the portal. So I think Walter Nolan would be huge, but we'll see if they do anything there. We're going to move on though to our final segment of today's show. Is winners and losers of the week. And do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
So my winners of the week are Jalen Milroe, and because if he wanted to beat Georgia this weekend, he was going to have to play his best game, and I think he
Mhm.
did. Didn't turn the ball over. Were there a couple plays that should have been picked off? Yeah, Carson Beck should have thrown 3 picks, but he didn't. So, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, he made the plays that won't show up in the stat sheet where he was able to
Yeah.
get around. He got sacked a couple times still, but still was able to bounce right back up. Didn't even do it all really without hitting any deep shots. He only
Mhm.
had maybe like 2 shots maybe that were caught, and one of them was a 4th down catch. It should have never been caught, but none of like the historical deep shots that we've seen from him.
Yeah.
So that was really impressive to see, and kudos to him. His legs ended up being the difference maker, which I
Mhm.
knew going in was going to have to be something Georgia was going to have to figure out and stop because they couldn't let him
Yeah.
take over like that. My other one is Quinn Ewers. I read you off the numbers from earlier in the show about his first half
It's
numbers.
crazy numbers, to be honest. Like
He
that's
set
like
he
insane.
set the Big 12 record for passing yards in the conference championship game.
Mhm.
I mean, I think he ended up with 4 touchdowns. Ended up 4 or 5 touchdowns and just a complete takeover. Didn't mess around
Yeah.
and posted on his story saying for Bevo's cousin. So look up once. Yeah, those are my winners.
My biggest winner of the week is definitely Alabama.
Mhm.
Just the team in general. Big win over Georgia, snapping Georgia's 29-game winning streak. Getting into the playoff, even though
Should they
we
have
could
been
talk
there?
about, that's a different conversation in general. But to Alabama just doing it, getting it done, and then my second is to Liberty, getting it done, undefeated season, getting that playoff or not playoff bid, but New Year's Six bid,
Mhm.
which next year would be a playoff bid.
Yeah. So
It's that's a massive win for that program. We can, obviously we were debating earlier, do they even deserve that shot? But in a vacuum, big weekend for them. Big weekend for them.
it's going to be really interesting how the committee approaches next year's playoff field, especially with that one spot that's goes to the winner of the group of 5, because
Yeah.
you've got to make the same criteria the same for both for the Power 5 teams and the
Power four now too.
Power 4 and the group of 5 going forward.
Yeah.
So really going to be something to keep in mind going forward because this year was 2 separate criteria, so which can't
Hmm.
happen. My losers of the week are UGA's coaching staff. I thought
Yeah.
they got out coached. It was a conservative approach after you started off really good, but then they just got really conservative for some reason, as if like they had like a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter and was trying to milk the clock.
Mhm.
Can't do that. They coach scared after like they just beat this team.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we playing scared again? And so I got frustrated just from a fan's perspective because I was like, they taking the ball out of Carson Beck's hands. I thought, and I give Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey all the credit in the world. Like those are two tough SOBs because but they played too long out there. They were hurt. Obviously, they weren't 100%, but you have guys that are healthy on the sideline. Why aren't they in the game? Because I can tell you right now, I'd rather have Dylan Bell out there than I would Lad McConkey. Just because he's healthy. He can be a difference. I don't need him just being out there to be a diversion. Because, the off defenses are going to pick up on that. So I just thought they got out-coached, and that's why they're a loser for me. And even, like, there's a clip from Kirby Smart's post-game speech in the locker room, which is really good watch. Just talking about, like, how, like, we're not going anywhere. Like, it falls on you guys, but it falls on us too. Like we got to be better too. And I thought it was really good. The playoff committee was my second loser, only because they got put into a lose-lose situation. And at the end of the day, they made a decision. Was it the right one or not? That's for up to debate. And it was going to piss off one team or another. So, and that's where, and the lack of criteria not being met, or lack of criteria, no set in stone, actual like requirements. They're just kind of feels like they made stuff up on the fly. And, they ended up leaving out a team that deserved to be in. Were they one of the best teams? Probably not at this point, but they should have been in. So that's where I just felt like they got put in a spot where it's like, you really were not going to win it either way.
Yeah.
They were expecting Georgia to win, which would
that's my biggest thing, is that the committee obviously was expecting things that did not happen.
And you can't do that if you're on the committee.
They were expecting Florida State to lose, and they were expecting Georgia to win.
Yeah.
Both those things didn't happen. So then they ran into a flux situation where they were like, oh, how do we make the least amount of people upset by doing the most upsetting thing possible? Because, they not only did they say, Alabama gets in, but then they try to back talk a lot of the things and say, oh, came down to the final seconds in that room.
No.
It's like, come on.
No.
These were conversations that happened over weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I knew as soon as he went down, that Florida game and Louisville game, I just thought, I'm like, unless this defense, no matter how good the defense plays, I'm like, they're going to need style points. And I think the committee's like, well, we're not going to tell you that, but we're going to see that. And again, lose spot, unfortunate, but.
And it just sucks, especially to me with that defense, because, man,
that's it.
That defense was crazy.
If Jordan Travis is in, I mean, this team is legit to make it win the title. I think because if they have Jordan Travis at quarterback, I mean, we can disagree on this or whatever. I think they probably blow out Florida based on the fact that their defense, like after that first quarter, Florida's offense could do nothing against Florida State's defense. Problem was Florida State just didn't have the passing game going, and they couldn't move the ball efficient enough. And that's what all eyes were on. It's like,
and the same thing happened with Louisville. I mean, Louisville's offense could do nothing.
But neither
they couldn't get past the 50-yard line. I mean, Florida State couldn't either.
I mean, Florida State had to start going to the Wildcat. It was how bad it was. So neither that was a bad one. And it was bad conditions, but still, it's like that's not, by the end of the day, like that's what they were looking for. And it is unfair too because they won both games with a third string in. But it's like, I don't know. It's just bad for either way you look at it.
Yep. I mean, what can you do, right?
You just gotta look ready for the Orange Bowl and next year.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, my biggest loser of the week personally is definitely Iowa. I mean, just kind of pitiful. Like, just a pitiful performance versus Michigan.
I think they crossed midfield.
One time. They got to the 52.
And then they fumbled it, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they fumbled it.
Cade McNamara.
Well, he was hurt. He was
hurt, but just his talking all season.
Oh, remember he was talking
about
changed. And he's talking about how he was like telling the staff about like the Michigan offense and stuff.
Yeah.
Like shut up, dude. I'm like,
It's like, oh
not
my
doing
God.
anything. Oh man,
That's not to say JJ McCarthy's a good quarterback. I think he's proved the past couple of weeks. This dude is not a good quarterback. I heard people saying that, he should leave for the NFL, but it's like he's not getting drafted.
No, he's not.
Like he's not even gonna get like an undrafted waiver. They're gonna tell him like go back to school.
Like, but no.
Like don't forfeit. You're not going anywhere.
It's like when you get told like
don't quit your day job.
You're not tall enough to ride the ride. It's like,
Yeah.
why don't you wait another year and see if you grow some right there?
Come back next year.
Yeah, come back next year until you meet that requirement.
Yeah.
That's boy, oh boy, Michigan. I think that I just think they don't. If that same Bama team comes out, they're going to give Michigan a fit right now.
Yeah.
And we've seen Harbaugh, and we've seen this Michigan teams last couple of years. They go just beautifully through the regular season, and then they just fall right on their face.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting one for sure.
I mean, to me, I think it's funny that people were like, "Oh, you can't put Florida State. Michigan would blow them out." Like as if Michigan blows out teams.
No, they blow out really bad teams.
I mean, people. The funny thing is that they were like, Florida State's pretty much Iowa now, and it's like Michigan barely they couldn't do anything against Iowa for most of the game. Like, what do you?
Right? No, and you credit Iowa's defense. Hey, look at the bright side for Iowa fans. Ferentz is gone after this year. The boogeyman's gone. At least the OC is. Yeah. Kirk's still there, but
you may have killed the man, but you will never kill the idea.
The dynasty still reigns. The Ferentz dynasty.
Did you know he got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in the game? The Brian Ferdinand?
Yeah, I saw he was throwing a fit. It's like if only he had that much passion about his offense all year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all we got today here. But subscribe, guys. Make sure you guys are subscribing. We're 19 subscribers away from that triple-digit mark. So make sure you guys, if you know anybody that's watching and it's not subscribed, tell them to subscribe because it's unacceptable that they're watching and they're not. Make sure they're listening on Spotify if you do that. And if you're listening on Spotify, you're following on Spotify as well. May or may not have another show this week.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. If we do, we'll be right here Thursday. Make sure you guys are ready. And if we're not, let's see if Army Navy. Quick thought though, prediction there. Just go Army, beat Navy.
I'm liking the Army.
All right, we're gonna roll with Army.
I got a friend who goes to West Point too, so I gotta give him the fair there.
There we go. Shout out Army. All right, we will be back next time. Make sure you guys are subscribing. And we'll see you on the flip side.
See you guys.
Yep.